Today, we're gonna pull back the curtain on something as old as time itself, but as current as that weird DM sitting in your requests folder. We're talking about manipulation. We're going to deconstruct the manipulator's playbook, piece by piece, to show you the tactics that have been used for centuries to influence, control, and, well, to deceive.
Okay, so check this out. On the left, you've got this breathless, over-the-top letter from a scandalous affair back in the 1800s. And on the right, a story from a modern online forum. They're separated by more than 200 years, but listen to that language. It's almost identical, right? Super intense, super fast. It's an incredible example of a crucial truth. The playbook for seduction and manipulation, it really hasn't changed. The stage is just different.
You know, whether it's written on perfumed letters or sent in an urgent late-night text, the script is timeless. So let's break it down into 3 acts. First up, we've got the opening move, the grand seduction. This is where the manipulator works to create this overwhelming, completely intoxicating connection right from the jump. And the #1 tactic in this opening phase is something called love bombing. Now, this isn't just someone being charming or paying you attention. No, this is a full-on campaign of affection, and it's designed to completely sweep you off your feet. Look, a healthy partner is present and interested, for sure, but a love bomber, they shower you with attention in a way that's meant to consume you. The goal isn't really connection, it's all about control.
And that feeling of being totally consumed, it often comes with this little internal alarm bell, doesn't it? This personal account just hits the nail on the head. On the surface, it feels amazing, like you're living in a romance novel. But deep down, there's that nagging little voice, that feeling that it's all just a bit much. That, my friends, is your intuition trying to cut through all the noise.
Now get this number, because it reveals a huge disconnect. A recent survey found that a wild 70% of people have had a new partner drop the "I love you" bomb within the very first month. But here's the kicker. That same survey showed that most of us believe those words should probably wait for at least 4 to 6 months. That massive gap right there shows you just how common this too fast, too soon approach really is. It plays on our desire for love while completely short-circuiting the natural, healthy pace of a real relationship.
So, this all begs the question, right? If our intuition is often screaming at us, and the pace feels totally off, why are these tactics so ridiculously effective? Why do we keep falling for them?
Well, the answer lies in some pretty fundamental human psychology. Manipulators are experts at exploiting these core principles of persuasion. First, you've got reciprocity. They shower you with affection so you feel like you owe them. Then there's scarcity. They frame the connection as this once-in-a-lifetime thing that you absolutely can't miss out on. And finally, authority. They act like they're an expert on what's best for you, which makes you doubt your own judgment. It's honestly just like a phishing scam that pretends to be your bank to get you to comply.
Okay, so once the seduction phase has you hooked, the playbook shifts gears. It moves into its second act. This is the middle game, what we're calling weaving the web. This is where that intense affection starts to morph into a clear strategy of control and isolation.
And this is where things get really subtle, because the tactics are often disguised as acts of caring. That helpfulness, you see, it's designed to make you dependent. Protectiveness becomes this convenient cover for intense jealousy. And gifts? Well, they aren't given freely. They're used to create guilt and a sense of obligation, making it that much harder for you to see other people or, just be independent. Think about it. In the classic 18th century novel Les Liaisons Dangereuses, the whole plot revolves around characters driving wedges between people to isolate their targets. The modern version, it sounds almost exactly the same. The manipulator uses their supposed generosity, "I bought you all these nice things," as a weapon. It makes their victim feel guilty for wanting any kind of life outside the relationship, effectively cutting them off from their support system.
This whole strategy of slowly escalating control, it's perfectly illustrated by the true story of a Cold War spy case involving a Marine named Clayton Lonetree. First, a KGB agent established a romantic connection through a woman. Then, they built trust by acting as a friendly go-between. Only then, after all that, did they ask for a small favor. Just an old phone book. But once that boundary was crossed, the requests got bigger and bigger until they were suggesting full-on KGB training. See how it works? Each little step makes the next one seem more reasonable, pulling the target deeper and deeper into the web.
And that, of course, brings us to the final, chilling act of the playbook. Once that initial seduction has faded and control has been firmly established, the manipulator's true intentions are often revealed. This is the endgame, the inevitable betrayal. This is what's known as the mask-off moment. The person who seemed like they walked straight out of a romance novel suddenly becomes a monster. This account is absolutely chilling, but it shows that shocking transformation. The second the target tries to set a boundary or leave, that carefully built facade just crumbles, and it reveals the cruelty that was hiding underneath all along.
And this pattern of betrayal and public ruin, believe me, it has deep historical roots. Just look at the Overberry scandal from the 1600s. A secret affair leads to an objection, which leads to a murder. But the story didn't stop there. News of the betrayal spread like wildfire through these little pamphlets and gossip circles. It became this public spectacle of disinformation that ultimately destroyed the king's reputation when he pardoned the guilty parties.
So, here's the crucial point. That 17th century gossip hub, the place where all the news and rumors were traded, it was a real place called Paul's Walk. And it has a modern equivalent. It's your social media feed. It's the digital town square where reputations can be built up and absolutely destroyed with terrifying speed. And today's tools are just way more sophisticated. Manipulators use phishing to steal private info, or circular reporting, where one fake source just quotes another fake source to seem legit. They use gaslighting to make you question your own sanity. They can even use deepfakes to create evidence out of thin air. The technology is always evolving, but the goal, controlling the narrative and betraying trust, that stays exactly the same.
All right, so now that we've taken the playbook apart, let's turn to the most important part, your defense. This is your counter move. This is where you learn how to spot the plays before the game is already over.
At its core, a manipulative approach is almost always a mix of these four elements. They exploit our emotions using flattery or guilt to get what they want. They prey on our natural tendency to trust people. They create a totally false sense of urgency, pressuring us to act before we have a chance to think. And crucially, they work to isolate us, cutting us off from friends, family, and even our own intuition. So what are the practical red flags you should actually watch for? First and foremost, trust your gut. That too good to be true feeling, it's usually right. Second, watch the pace. Does it feel like too much, too soon? Be really wary of anyone pressuring you to make big decisions quickly. Pay close attention to any attempts, no matter how subtle, to isolate you from your friends and family. And finally, notice when a gift starts to feel less like a nice gesture and more like a debt that you're expected to repay. Look, just understanding the playbook is the first and most critical step. The tactics might get slicker with new technology, but those underlying principles, exploiting trust, emotion, and urgency, they've been around for centuries. And that leaves us with one final and really crucial question to think about. In a world where we are more connected than ever before, how do you protect your most valuable asset, your trust?